Hey Internet, it's Aaron, your personal driver, and today we're going to talk about ratings. So go ahead and stand up, look under your seat, and what'd you find? That's right, you got a 5-star. You get a 5-star, you got a 5-star, everybody gets a 5-star. Was that? Nobody watching this is going to be young enough to understand that reference? Oh man, well... Mystro! Alright guys, if this is your first time here, I do all kinds of Uber, Lyft, and rideshare videos. I have live streams on Friday and Saturday, and every Monday I post a fun, helpful video like this one. So go ahead and hit subscribe and the stupid bell icon thing that YouTube makes you do now, so you make sure you can get updates. So despite the fact that Oprah is an empire all to herself, and you should definitely have gotten that reference, I'm going to move on. Today we're going to talk about ratings. It's going to come to you in 3 parts. Okay, so this is the video that no driver wants to watch because every driver hates ratings, and historically we could just completely ignore them. That being said, you can't do that anymore. The first thing I'm going to touch upon is what ratings are, how they work, and what the basic mechanics of them are, okay guys? So every ride that you give as a driver, you're required to rate the passenger before you go ahead and get the next ride. And that's true on most all platforms, but specifically on Lyft and Uber, which is what I'll be concentrating on in my videos from now on. But most specifically in Uber and Lyft, you need to rate your drivers. And now drivers can see their profile and their rating right up front. So if you give a low rating to a passenger, they're gonna know right away. Also, just like the driver, the passengers after every ride that they take with somebody can rate their driver. Now the passengers have up to 30 days to rate their drivers, which is just absurdly too long. There's no reason to take up to 30 days. Because a lot of times passengers will get confused and they'll give you a low rating that you don't deserve, or a high rating if you don't deserve it. But honestly, most people don't rate unless they have an actual problem. So 30 days, man. That's asking for some trouble. So if your rating goes down and you're not really sure why, it's because somebody from up to 30 days ago decided they were going to take it out on you. The other unfortunate thing is a lot of people get drivers mixed up. So they'll go to their email to give somebody a 1-star because they had a bad experience, and then you just happen to be the one they pull up. That's just how it works, man. It sucks. It's a shitty system, but that's the way it works. So some of you seasoned drivers out there are gonna know ratings as bullshit, right? You don't care. You don't care what your rating is as long as your rating... And kids crying. I might have to stop recording this. So veteran drivers out there, they don't care about their ratings because as long as you don't fall below a certain standard here. Okay, so now that you know how the ratings work, let's talk about why they matter, because for a long time they didn't. Okay, so I'll put a chart right here, guys, so you can see where your rating is compared to other drivers nationwide. This is from a leaked document that they claim to be from Uber. So take it with a grain of salt. It's unverified, so we don't actually know if some dude just made this up and tried to pass it up on news, but it's really the only reference point we have because Uber and Lyft are very tight-lipped about it. So for the past 5 to 7 years, depending on how long the rideshare market has been available in your area, ratings didn't matter as long as you didn't fall below a certain threshold. Now at some threshold, you're going to be deactivated from Uber, and what ranges just so widely, it's hard to say market to market. And it seems like full-time drivers who grind out every 100 to 200 rides every week, that doesn't matter what their rating is, they'll keep them on board no matter what. Now, Uber and Lyft both offer a program that if you do drop below a certain rating, they'll cut you off the platform, but you can take what's essentially a class on customer service and they'll reintroduce you to the app again. You can start all over. But eventually you do get kicked off permanent style, and that's just the way the cookie crumbles. There's nothing you can do about that. But for a long time, people didn't care about their rating. As long as it was high enough that they weren't going to get kicked out, that's all that mattered. Now, Uber just recently introduced a tip option, but for a long time, for several years, Uber didn't have a tip option. So drivers would use the rating system to hold their customers hostage, essentially. So if you gave a tip in cash, they give you 5 stars. If you didn't give a tip in cash, you give them 4 stars. And then if you hated your driver, you give them a 1 star. So those are essentially the 3 things that drivers did. There weren't a lot of 2 and 3 stars for drivers. Now the reason drivers would do that is because they would lower your overall rating so they would know who the tippers were and weren't. So before we move on to a small history about ratings here, just remember that if you give a 3-star or less to a driver or a 3-star or less rating to a passenger, those people will not pair with you anymore. So you won't get that driver again, or you won't get the passengers again. That's true on both Lyft and Uber platforms. Okay, and so the reason that drivers would do that is because if there was a bad customer, it was a 1-star, they would never match with them again. If it was a 4-star, that's fine. They're a good customer, they just don't tip. So in times of high volume, you know, you'd switch over to only passengers that give you higher ratings because you're more likely to get a tip. And passenger theories on rating drivers is, I don't know, because passengers are crazy, and those packs out there, they'll just give you like a 1-star because they don't like it. It seems like it's just totally random and makes no sense at all. There's no rhyme or reason to it. And that's really where the similarities between Lyft and Uber end, because from here on out, it's pretty easy on Lyft. I mean, every driver gives every passenger 5 stars because they want a tip from the passenger, and passengers generally don't give a rating at all to their driver unless they're going to tip them, in which case they give 5 stars, or unless they hate them, in case they give a 1-star. So essentially, ratings on Lyft has become useless. It's a thumbs up or thumbs down system. You either want the rider again or you don't want the rider again. You either want the driver again or you don't want the driver again, okay? So it's basically a thumbs up or a thumbs down, 5-star or 1-star. That's how it basically works on Lyft. Now, if you're on Lyft, I always advise to give 5 stars to all your passengers, and I advise to do it right away. Like, try to get them to see you give them 5 stars. It's a little harder on Lyft to give 5 stars in front of the customer because there's a delay from the time you end the trip to the time you rate the passenger. And I think Lyft did this on purpose to try to give some buffer room between the driver and the passenger, so if they were giving them a low rating, they wouldn't get caught. But remember, as a driver, you're just giving basically a thumbs up or thumbs down to the passenger because you want them to tip you. So give a 5-star as fast as you can to them, give a 5-star to every single rider, and just make sure they see you do it so they're more likely to want to tip you. They'll be like, oh, you gave me 5 stars, that's nice. And the last thing to remember is only your last 100 ratings on Lyft matter. So basically, if you're a full-time driver, that's less than a week of driving. If you're a part-time driver, it's a 2-week history. So it's a snapshot of how you've driven in the last 2 weeks, essentially. So if you have a bad rating on Lyft, it's really easy to lift it because you only have to wait out 100 rides. So you just need 100 5-stars in a row and you have a 5-star rating. Every driver on Lyft should be close to 5 stars. I mean, if you drive below 4.9 on Lyft, you are doing something terribly wrong and should look at your business model and fix it, because it's only 100 rides. Because it's only 100 rides, so you should easily be able to get close to, if not always, on 5 stars on Lyft. Uber, however, for a long time is different. Now, Uber still does 500 rides, so for a lot of people, at a minimum, that's 2 weeks. So it's 2 weeks worth of driving for most people, and honestly, for most part-time drivers, that's a little bit more than a month to 2 months worth of ratings. Because remember, just because you've given 150 rides that week doesn't mean you've gotten 150 ratings. I would say about half of the passengers actually rate their drivers. So, you know, you have to get probably around, you know, like 800 to 1,000 rides to get that full 500 5-stars. So for most drivers who do it part-time, it's gonna be probably a couple weeks to a couple months. So let's go back to this chart that I posted earlier, and I want you to take a longer look at it. I'm gonna leave it up there for a little while. So this is kind of where things changed for Uber. Now, 2 things happened. Once, Uber updated their algorithm. Now, I can't verify this for Lyft or not. This is only applicable to Uber because Lyft has been very tight-lipped about their algorithm, so we don't know. But Uber changed their algorithm, 1, and 2, Uber introduced tipping options. So it's a little bit different now. So the first thing you have to worry about is, just like Lyft, Uber now has a tip option. So just tip all of your riders 5 stars. More importantly, it's easier now on Uber to see your rating as a passenger than it is on Lyft. So remember, the passenger can look at their profile, and if their rating goes down, they're going to get pissed, and if it goes up, they're going to be happy. So just give everyone a 5-star. Do as fast as you can in front of them. They'll remember that you gave them a 5-star, and they'll be happy about it. But more important than a tip, because tips are super important, more important than that is you get more rides if your rating is higher. So I'll see if I can find it on my computer, but I'll post it here. Uberman did a video about Uber announcing they changed the algorithm for how riders are matched with passengers, okay? At first, when it just came out and it was brand new and there weren't very many drivers and there weren't very many passengers, it was just whoever was closest. They got the first ping, that's what they call it. So that you were just matched with whoever was closest. But now, markets are overcrowded and overflooded with drivers. There's way too many drivers and not enough passengers. So Uber did is they changed the matching system to now have a priority list, okay? So passengers with higher ratings will get matched with drivers with higher ratings. The main effect is that no one will stay in the middle now. okay? There's gonna be a race to the top and a race to the bottom. So good passengers over time are gonna have higher and higher ratings, especially now that there's a tip system. So people will always get 5 stars by default and only get 1 stars when they're shit. And the same goes for the driver. So if you're constantly a 5-star driver, you're over time gonna constantly get 5-star passengers from here on out. So if you constantly find yourself with shitty passengers, you need to look at your business model and make some changes. See if you can get your rating to get a little higher so you can get better paxes. And if you're a passenger and you have a low rating, you know, maybe you start giving out tips or being kinder or stop being such a douchebag, okay? Because obviously, the worse your passenger rating is, the crappier the driver you're gonna get, and you guys are just gonna be miserable together forever until your ratings are 0. Alternatively, if you got 5 stars constantly and you're given 5-star service, you're gonna get 5-star paxes who tip and who are kind and who treat your car gently and all that kind of fun stuff. So it's a spiral to the top if you're good, and it's a spiral to the bottom if you're crappy. But the most important part of the rating system is that you get more trips, okay? If you're the highest rated driver in an area, you got like a 4.97, you just kick ass, you're gonna get first shot at all rides. If there are 10 cars within 5 minutes of that passenger, you get the first choice on that passenger or not. If you pass, whoever has the next highest rating will get that passenger. If you don't, then you accept it, and the next driver is gonna have to wait for the next rider. So what that means is at bar times or concerts or times of high concentration, if you have a higher rating, you're gonna get a ride first, and if you get back to that area, you could potentially get a ride before a driver who's already been sitting there for a long time. I mean, you could get 2 or 3 rides when that other driver is only gonna get 1. And the reason for that is at nighttime, there's only a couple places in the city where you can go to get rides. Everyone's at the bar or the club. So you can drop somebody off and come back to the original place where you picked someone up in the first place, and if you have a high rating, you're gonna get the next ride. So what's happening is drivers think that it's an oversaturation problem, but it's not. There are still passengers there. The problem is the rating problem. You're in the right spot, okay? It's just you're not getting rides because a driver with a higher rating is taking all the passengers. They're gobbling everything up. And if that wasn't bad enough, if 2 passengers request an Uber at the same time, the higher rated driver is gonna get the higher rated passenger. So you're gonna get the shitty guy who's gonna throw up in the car and not tip you, and the other driver's gonna get the person who does this every Friday night and tips regularly because he's a 5-star driver and he's getting a 5-star passenger. So if you're constantly getting bad passengers and you're constantly waiting and waiting and waiting and you're not getting any rides, it might be because your rating's too low. And the same goes for passengers. If you keep getting crappy drivers, you know, maybe you need to work on it a little bit. So basically, if you are a 4.90 or higher, you're in a really good elite group of drivers who are gonna get first preferences, okay? This chart is obviously nationwide and not specific enough to know what your market is. Culturally, every city, every county, every state is different. So some places might have all 5-star drivers because the culture says to give 5 stars, okay? And some places are gonna have all low-rated drivers because the culture never gives 5 stars. There are some places where you just always give 4 out of 5. That's the highest rating you'll ever get. So I understand there's some variance from place to place. But just know, if you fall below this 4.90 area, that you are gonna be lumped in a group with a bunch of other drivers, and you might feel the weight of something like oversaturation or busy times more than a driver who's got a 4.9 or higher. Now there are a lot of times where you're just gonna take a 1-star. I'll give you one example. Okay, I love cancellation fees. I'll cancel the shit out of somebody's face. One time I canceled the same passenger 3 times. I don't know what his deal was. I was outside of the bar waiting for him. I was parked. I waited 5 minutes, I canceled. As soon as I canceled, he requested again. I accepted again. I waited 5 more minutes and I canceled. I did that to him 3 times. Okay, so I got $375 times 3, right? On the 4th time, he got in the car, I drove him home, and he lived like 2 miles away. So like a $4 minimum fare like turned into like a $16 or $17. That guy gave me a 1-star, and I didn't care because money is more important to me than ratings. I got plenty of 5 stars. That being said, you know, I'm a pretty highly rated driver. I'm always between like 4.91 and 4.94. That's constantly where I've been since I've gotten on the platform. Look, man, I get it. Sometimes you just get bad passengers who just give you 1 star because they don't like you. Especially if you're female, especially if you're a person of color. People are racist and sexist. So they'll get in your car and then whatever. They don't like you because you're a person of color, they'll give you 1 star. They don't like you because you're a woman and they're gonna give you 1 star. That happens in this country. So your rating is gonna go down sometimes. That's why you need a buffer, okay? That's why you need to do as best as you can to get these higher ratings so that if something like that happens, you can survive that. And the last thing that sucks to make your rating goes down is Uber still lets customers rate you if you charge them a cleaning fee. So when that dude threw up in my car, he gave me a 1 star. When the guy pissed in my car, he gave me a 1 star because I charged him cleaning fees. And so they wake up the next morning and they're like, $150 because I threw up in his car. Fuck that guy, and he gave me a 1 star. But if your ratings are constantly high, you can survive those type of things, okay? And if you're worried about your ratings, I'll put a link to a video here. Oh, I did. It was one of the first videos I ever did where I explained my theories on how to be a good driver and get tips. Now, obviously, if you're getting tips, that means you're getting a higher rating. No one's gonna give you a 1 star and then give you $5, right? They're only gonna tip when you have good service. So now that Uber has a tipping option, you know, you're gonna get an increase in tips and your ratings are gonna go up, hopefully, if you're doing things right. So anyway, guys, I hope that helped clarify some stuff, and I am tired as shit, man. I've been driving all night, so deuces, I'll see you guys later. Hey guys, I hope you liked that video. If you did, go ahead and hit like, thumbs up, and go ahead and leave a comment and subscribe. You hit this button here. There are also gonna be 2 videos here and here if you'd like to watch some more. And don't forget to hit the little bell icon that you have on your YouTube so you can get updates when I leave them. Thanks guys, bye.